The handcuffs bit into my wrists, cold and unyielding. As the police officer's radio crackled with static, drowning out my pleas, I, Amara Thompson, a 14-year-old black girl, sat in the back of a squad car, my heart pounding like a trapped bird. Just minutes ago, I'd been standing in a Wells Fargo bank in Seattle, Washington, clutching $1,000 in savings, my ticket to independence, only to be accused of theft by a bank manager who looked at me like I was dirt. My crime being young, black, and daring to dream. As the car sped toward the station 3 miles away, I fought tears, my mind replaying the moment Karen Daniels, the manager, had sneered, "Kids like you don't belong here," and called the cops. I'd texted my dad, Dr. Marcus Reed, in a panic, but now, with my phone confiscated, I felt utterly alone. How had my plan to open a checking account, to prove I could handle my own money, turned into this nightmare? I wasn't just scared, I was furious, betrayed by a world I thought was fair. But as the car screeched to a stop, I didn't know that Karen's prejudice had just ignited a firestorm, one that would expose her, shake this bank to its core, and change my life forever. Let me take you back to that morning, when my biggest worry was perfecting my pitch to the bank teller. I'd woken up buzzing with excitement, my alarm blaring at 7 a.m. in our cozy home in Seattle's Madison Park. I'm Amara, a freshman at Garfield High, where I'm known for my debate team, wins, and my obsession with graphic design. I'd been saving for 2 years, $1,000 from birthday gifts, odd jobs like designing posters for school clubs, and a summer coding camp scholarship. That money, stuffed in a worn envelope, was my chance to open a checking account and fund my latest project, a digital art platform for teens to showcase anti-racism designs. I'd sketched logos for it on my tablet, dreaming of a space where kids like me could speak out through art. My dad, Marcus, always said, "Amara, your creativity can change the world." He's a single parent, a brilliant CEO of Reed Financial Group, but to me he's just Dad, the guy who burns toast and cheers too loudly at my debates. He raised me to be humble, never flaunting our wealth, which I didn't fully grasp. Our house was nice, sure, but I took the bus, not a limo. That morning, I rehearsed my bank speech in the mirror, my reflection showing a girl with braided hair, a Garfield hoodie, and a determined grin. I slipped my ID, birth certificate, and savings statements into my backpack, kissed Dad's photo on the fridge. He was in a meeting in Portland, Oregon, 170 miles away, and headed out. My envelope, clutched like a treasure dot at Wells Fargo. The lobby hummed with the clink of coins and the murmur of voices. I approached the counter, my sneakers soft on the tile, and met Karen Daniels, a 50-year-old manager with sharp eyes and a pinched smile. I expected a nod, maybe a "how can I help?" Instead, her gaze raked over me, lingering on my hoodie, my braids, my skin. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone like a slammed door. I swallowed, forcing a smile. "Hi, I'm Amara. I'd like to open a checking account, please. I have $1,000 birthday money in savings." I slid the envelope forward, my hand steady despite her stare. Karen's lips curled. $1,000? From a kid like you? I don't think so. My stomach dropped. A kid like me? I tried to explain, pulling out my ID and statements, my voice rising with nerves. "I go to Garfield High. This is all legit. Check my savings account here." But Karen didn't even glance at the papers. "This smells like a scam," she said, loud enough for a nearby customer to turn. "You've probably swiped this cash from somewhere. I've seen your type before." My type? The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I'd faced snide comments before, classmates joking I only got into debate because of diversity quotas, but this was different. This was raw, unfiltered hate, and I didn't know how to fight it. I stood there, my hands shaking, as Karen's accusations grew sharper. "You think you can waltz in here with stolen money and fool me?" she snapped, jabbing a finger at my envelope. "I've been in this business 30 years and I know trouble when I see it." My throat tightened, tears burning my eyes. I wasn't trouble. I was a kid with a 4.0 GPA, a girl who'd coded her first website at 11. I tried to show her my birth certificate, the savings statements with my name, but she waved them off. "Fakes," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Around us the lobby grew quiet, customers glancing over a businessman in a suit, an elderly woman with a cane, but no one spoke up. I felt exposed, like I was on trial for existing. "Please," I said, my voice cracking. "Just call my dad, he'll explain everything." Karen laughed, a harsh grating sound. "Your dad's probably in on it, sending you to pull this stunt." My chest ached. Dad, in on a scam. He was the most honest person I knew, the man who taught me to stand tall. I fumbled for my phone, typing a frantic text. "Dad, I'm at Wells Fargo in Seattle. The manager thinks I stole my money. She's calling the cops. Help." I hit send, just as Karen snatched the phone from my hand, her nails grazing my skin. "No tricks," she hissed, tossing it behind the counter. Karen's cruelty wasn't just personal, it was calculated, rooted in a prejudice I was only beginning to understand. She saw my blackness as a threat, my youth as weakness, and she wielded her power like a weapon. Later, I'd learned she had a history of targeting customers of color, demanding extra IDs from Black and Latino clients while waving through white ones. But in that moment, I only felt her venom, each word stripping away the confidence Dad had built in me. I wanted to scream, to demand she look at my papers, but fear glued my feet to the floor. Then she picked up the phone, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "Police now," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby. "We've got a thief trying to deposit stolen funds." My knees buckled. Thief? I'd never even jaywalked. The word echoed in my head, heavy as the cuffs that would soon bind me. I glanced at the customers again, hoping someone would step in. A young woman with a stroller met my eyes, her face softening, but she turned away, whispering to her child. A man in a Seahawks cap shook his head, but stayed put. Their silence hurt almost as much as Karen's words, teaching me a bitter lesson. Injustice thrives when good people do nothing. The police arrived faster than I expected, 2 officers striding in with hands on their belts. Officer Hayes, a burly man with a buzz cut, listened as Karen spun her tale. "This girl's got no business with that kind of cash," she said, pointing at my envelope like it was evidence of a crime. "She's been dodging questions, acting shifty." I tried to speak, my voice barely a whisper. "That's not true." I showed her my ID, my statements, everything, but Hayes cut me off. "Save it for the station," he said, his tone bored, like he'd heard it all before. Officer Nugent, younger and quieter, hesitated, her eyes flicking to my backpack, but she followed Hayes' lead. "Hands behind your back," she said, pulling out handcuffs. The metal clicked shut, pinching my skin, and I bit my lip to keep from crying. As they led me out, the lobby's stares burned into me pity, curiosity, judgment. I caught a glimpse of Karen, her arms crossed, a satisfied smirk on her face. She thought she'd won, that she'd put me in my place. But she didn't know my dad, didn't know the storm she'd just unleashed. In the squad car, the city blurred past Seattle's coffee shops, its gray skies, its life moving on while mine unraveled at the King County Juvenile Detention Center. They sat me in a stark room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. My wrists ached from the cuffs, now removed, but the real pain was deeper. A gnawing question: why me? I'd done everything right, saved my money, brought my papers, spoken politely. Yet Karen had seen only my skin, not my story. I thought of Dad, who'd faced his own battles growing up Black in Alabama, always telling me, "Amara, rise above, but never forget who you are." I thought I understood, but now I saw the world through his eyes, a place where fairness wasn't guaranteed, where hate could strike without warning. I hugged my knees, my mind racing to my art platform. I imagined a design, a fist raised against a cracked wall, captioned "Break the Bias." It was my way of fighting back, even here, in this cold room. But as footsteps echoed outside, loud and urgent, I froze. A voice cut through the walls, deep, commanding, unmistakably Dad's. "Where is my daughter?" he demanded, each word a thunderclap. My heart soared, but fear lingered. Karen had started this war, but Dad was about to end it, and I wasn't sure what that would cost us all. My heart thudded as Dad's voice echoed through the juvenile detention center's walls, a lifeline pulling me from the abyss of fear. I sat in that stark room, my wrists still aching from the handcuffs, my mind a tangle of questions about why Karen Daniels had branded me a thief for daring to open a bank account. I'm Amara Thompson, a 14-year-old Black girl from Seattle, and just hours ago, I'd walked into Wells Fargo with $1,000 in savings, dreaming of funding my anti-racism art platform. Instead, Karen, the bank manager, saw my skin and decided I was a criminal, calling the cops without a glance at my ID or statements. Now, as Dad's voice grew louder, "I demand to see my daughter." I felt a flicker of hope, but also dread. What would it take to undo the hate Karen had unleashed? I didn't know then that Dad's arrival would crack open her world, expose her prejudice to the nation, and set me on a path I never imagined, one where my art would become a weapon against injustice. The door swung open, and an officer, his badge glinting under the fluorescent lights, gestured for me to follow. My legs wobbled as I stood, my Garfield high hoodie damp with sweat. I'd been sketching mental designs for my platform, a bold mural of raised fists against a shattered chain to keep panic at bay. But now reality crashed back. The officer led me down a corridor, past other kids with tired eyes, to a waiting area where Dad stood, his 6-foot frame radiating fury. His tailored suit, worth thousands, was rumpled from his rushed flight from Portland, 170 miles away, but his presence filled the room like a storm. "Amara," he said, his voice softening as he pulled me into a hug. I buried my face in his chest, tears soaking his shirt, the weight of the decorant's sneers, the handcuffs, the silence of bystanders pouring out. "I didn't steal anything," I whispered. "I know, baby," he said, his hand steady on my back. "This ends now." But his eyes, usually warm, were steel as he turned to the officer. "Who authorized this?" "My daughter's no criminal," the officer stammered, mentioning a bank manager's call, but Dad cut him off. "Get me to that bank now. We rode in Dad's rental car, a sleek BMW speeding 5 miles back to Wells Fargo, the Seattle skyline blurring past. Dad's silence was heavy, his jaw tight, and I knew he was piecing together a plan. I'd always seen him as my hero, with me at midnight, coaching my debate team, but I didn't know the full scope of his power. Dr. Marcus Reed, CEO of Reed Financial Group, wasn't just a dad. He controlled a $3 billion empire, including 65% of Wells Fargo's shares. Growing up, he'd shielded me from that world, raising me in a modest Madison Park home, teaching me to earn my way. But now, I sensed the titan beneath his calm, ready to dismantle the woman who'd hurt me. "Dad," I said, my voice small, "she called me a thief because I'm black, didn't she?" He glanced at me, pain flickering in his eyes. "Yes, Amara, but she's about to learn who she's dealing with." His words sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of anticipation. Karen thought she'd won, but she'd miscalculated. We pulled up to the bank, its glass doors reflecting the late afternoon sun. Inside, the lobby buzzed with tension, customers whispering, tellers glancing nervously. Karen stood behind her counter, arms crossed, her smugness intact, unaware of the reckoning approaching. Dad strode in, me trailing behind, my backpack slung over one shoulder, still holding my unopened envelope. The air shifted as he entered, like a king reclaiming his court. "Karen Daniels," he said, his voice low, but carrying to every corner. "Where's my daughter's money?" Karen's eyes widened, her confidence faltering as she took in Dad's commanding presence. "Your daughter was detained for suspicious activity," she said, her tone defensive. "She had no business with that cash." Dad stepped closer, his 200-pound frame towering over her 5'3" one. "No business. She's Amara Thompson, my daughter, and you profiled her based on nothing but your bias." Karen scoffed, but her hands trembled. "I followed protocol. Kids don't just walk in with $1,000. Dad's smile was icy. "Kids like her do, especially when their family owns this bank." The lobby froze. A teller dropped a pen. A customer gasped. Karen's face drained of color, her smugness crumbling. "Like dry sand, owned," she stammered. Dad pulled a business card from his pocket, gold embossed with Reed Financial Group, and placed it on the counter with deliberate calm. "I'm Dr. Marcus Reed," he said. "My family holds 65% of Wells Fargo's shares. Every paycheck you've cashed, every promotion you've bragged about, came from us." I watched, my heart racing, as Karen's world unraveled. She'd thought I was nobody, a kid she could humiliate. But now she faced the truth. I was the daughter of the man who could end her career with a word. Dad didn't stop. "You refused her ID, her statements, her rights. You called the police on a 14-year-old for opening an account. Why? Because she's black." Karen opened her mouth, but no words came. The crowd grew, phones recording, and I felt a strange mix of vindication and sorrow. This wasn't just about MIT, it was about every person Karen had ever judged by their skin. Dad turned to a bank employee, a young man named Jamal, who'd been watching wide-eyed. "Pull the security footage," Dad ordered. Jamal nodded, scurrying to a back office. Karen's panic was palpable now, her fingers twisting her necklace. "There's no need for that," she said, her voice shrill. "I was protecting the bank." Dad ignored her, addressing the crowd. "This isn't just one mistake. It's a pattern." He pulled out his phone, live streaming to his 50,000 followers on X, his voice steady. "I'm at Wells Fargo in Seattle, where my daughter was arrested for being black. This is hashtag break the bias. Share it." My jaw dropped. Dad, who barely posted selfies, was launching a movement in real. The video spread like wildfire, comments flooding in anger, support, stories of similar injustices. I realized then that this was bigger than my pain. It was a call to millions. The footage played on a monitor. Jamal wheeled out, and the room fell silent. There I was, politely offering my envelope, my ID, my truth, while Karen dismissed me with venom. "Fakes," she'd called my papers, her sneer captured in high definition. But the tapes showed more months of Karen's behavior, demanding extra IDs from black and Latino customers, smiling for white ones. One clip showed her refusing a black woman's deposit, claiming irregularities while approving a white man's larger sum minutes later. The crowd murmured, anger rising. A woman in a hijab whispered, "She did that to me too." Dad's eyes met mine, and I saw pride beneath his fury. "Amara," he said softly, "this is why we fight." I nodded, my fear giving way to resolve. My art platform wasn't just a dream, it was a necessity, a way to amplify voices like mine. Karen's defense collapsed. "I was doing my job," she cried, but her voice cracked, betraying her guilt. Dad turned to Mr. Ellison, the bank's regional director, who'd rushed in from a meeting 10 miles away, his face pale. "Charles," Dad said, using his first name with chilling familiarity, "your employee racially profiled my daughter. What are you doing about it?" Ellison, a 60-year-old with decades in banking, looked at Karen like she was a sinking ship. "Miss Daniels," he said, his voice grim, "you're terminated, effective immediately. Security, escort her out." 2 guards stepped forward, and Karen's bravado vanished. "You can't do this," she shrieked, her hands flailing. I've given this bank 30 years. But the guards were unmoved, guiding her toward the exit as she clutched her purse, her career in ruins. The crowd parted, some recording, others shaking their heads. I should have felt triumph, but instead, I felt a pang of sadness, not for Karen, but for the innocence she'd stolen from me. The trust and fairness I'd lost as Karen disappeared through the doors. Dad turned to me, his hand on my shoulder. "You're safe now," he said, but his eyes scanned the lobby, searching for more threats. The crowd's energy shifted anger, turning to support. A young black teller Tasha approached, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, Amara. I should have spoken up." I nodded, unable to speak, her apology a small bomb. Dad addressed Ellison again. "This isn't enough. I want a full investigation into this branch's practices." "How many others has she hurt?" Ellison nodded, sweat beading on his forehead. "It's already underway. Marcus will review every complaint, every tape." Dad's phone buzzed with notifications. #Break the Bias was trending, with 100,000 shares in minutes. I realized this wasn't just my story anymore. It was a spark, igniting voices across the country. But the fight wasn't over. I was free, Karen was gone, but the system that let her thrive remained. Dad's campaign was only the start, and I knew my role was growing. My art platform, once a school project, now felt like a mission to design a space where kids could fight prejudice with creativity. As we left the bank, my envelope finally safe in my hands, I glanced at Dad. "What happens next?" I asked. He squeezed my shoulder, his voice firm. "We rebuild Amara for you, for everyone." I nodded, but a new fear stirred. Karen was one person, but what about the others like her, hiding in plain sight? And what would it cost to face them all? The air in our Seattle home felt different that night, heavy with the weight of what had happened, yet buzzing with a new kind of energy. I, Amara Thompson, sat at our kitchen table, my $1,000 envelope finally safe beside me, but my heart still raced from the day's events. At 14, I'd faced a bank manager's racism, felt the sting of handcuffs, and watched my dad, Dr. Marcus Reed, dismantle her career with a few words and a viral #Break the Bias campaign. Karen Daniels, who'd called me a thief for being black, was gone, fired from Wells Fargo, her prejudice exposed on security tapes for all to see. But as I traced the edges of my envelope, my mind churned with questions. Why had Karen's hate felt so personal? How many others had she hurt? And what did it mean for me, a girl who'd believed politeness could conquer anything, to carry this new truth about the world? Dad sat across from me, his laptop open, emails pouring in from supporters of his campaign, but his eyes were on me, searching for the spark he'd always called my strength. "Amara," he said, his voice soft but firm, "this isn't the end, it's the beginning." I nodded, unsure what that meant, but I felt it a shift inside me, like the first stroke of a design on my tablet, bold and unapologetic. Over the next weeks, that shift grew into a movement, not just for me, but for a community demanding change, and it started with a single idea. My art could do more than heal. It could rebuild a system that had failed us all. The morning after that bank incident, I woke to a world that had changed overnight. Dad's #Break the Bias post had exploded. With 500,000 shares and stories flooding in from across the U.S. A Latino teen denied a loan in Miami. A black woman humiliated at a bank. In Chicago, my phone buzzed with notifications. Classmates from Garfield High texting support, some admitting they'd faced similar slights. I felt a strange mix of pride and pressure. This wasn't just my story anymore, it was theirs, too. At school, my debate coach, Ms. Harper, pulled me aside, her eyes warm but serious. "Amara, you've started something big," she said, handing me a flyer for a community forum on banking fairness. "Your voice matters now." I clutched the flyer, my hands trembling. I'd always been the girl who designed posters, not the one speaking at podiums, but Karen's sneer, "kids like you," echoed in my mind, fueling a fire I hadn't known I had. I wanted to fight back, not just for me, but for every kid who'd been made to feel small. That night, I opened my tablet and poured my anger into my anti-racism art platform. Sketching a digital mural, a black girl, breaking chains, her eyes fierce, captioned, "We are enough." It was my first step toward turning pain into power. Dad was already moving, his CEO instincts kicking into high gear. He called a meeting with Wells Fargo's board, 10 miles away in downtown Seattle, demanding reforms to prevent another Karen Daniels. I wasn't there, but he told me later how he'd stood at the head of a mahogany table, his voice steady as he outlined changes: 50 hours of mandatory bias training for all 3,000 employees, youth advocates to assist teen clients, and a hotline for reporting discrimination. "My daughter was handcuffed for being black," he said, his words silencing the room. "How many others have you failed?" The board, led by Mr. Ellison, agreed to everything, their faces pale with the fear of losing Reed Financial Group's 65% stake. By week's end, Wells Fargo rolled out new policies, hiring 20 youth advocates who'd already helped 1,200 teens open accounts without scrutiny. I saw one advocate, a young woman named Lena, At the bank, when I finally opened my account, her smile warm as she guided me through the process in 10 minutes flat. "You're why we're here, Amara," she whispered, and I felt a surge of pride, but also responsibility. These changes were real. 1,200 kids served meant 1,200 fewer humiliations, but they were only a start. Back home, Dad and I brainstormed bigger ideas. He'd always taught me that power isn't just wealth, it's action. "We can't stop at one bank," he said, his eyes gleaming with the same fire I'd seen when he faced Karen. He proposed a mentorship program through his foundation, pairing 600 teens with financial professionals to learn banking skills and fight discrimination. But I wanted to add something new, something mine. "What if we use virtual reality?" I suggested, my voice shaky with excitement. Teens could practice banking scenarios, dealing with rude tellers, standing up for their rights in a safe space. Dad's jaw dropped. Then he grinned. "That's my girl," he said, already dialing his tech team. Within days, the Reed Foundation announced the Future Fair program, blending mentorship with VR simulations. I helped design the first module, a 3D bank lobby where users faced a virtual Karen-like manager, learning to present IDs confidently. We piloted it at a Seattle community center, 5 miles from home, where 50 teens tried it, their laughter and cheers filling the room. A boy named Jamal, who'd been at the bank during my ordeal, gripped my hand after. "This would have saved me last year," he said, his voice thick. I got turned away, too. His words hit hard, reminding me that Karen's prejudice had left scars beyond my own. The mentorship program wasn't just about skills, it was about healing. I met my mentor, Ms. Carter, a black financial advisor who'd faced her own battles in banking, over coffee at a Starbucks 2 miles from school. She shared how she'd been passed over for promotions, her competence questioned because of her race. "You're stronger than I was at your age," she said, her eyes kind. "Keep designing, keep speaking." Her stories made me see Karen not as a lone villain but as part of a system that rewarded bias. I thought of Karen's smugness, her 30 years of unchecked power, and wondered how many lives she'd dimmed. Later, I learned she'd been blacklisted in Seattle's banking circles. Now working at $12 an hour retail job, her name a cautionary tale. Part of me felt justice, but another part ached for the world that had let her thrive, for the innocence I'd lost. I channeled that ache into my platform, launching a beta version called Art of Justice. It let teens upload anti-racism designs, with 2,000 users joining in the first week. One girl from Atlanta shared a sketch of a broken scale, captioned, "Justice isn't blind." Her art mirrored my pain, and I realized we were building a community, not just a website. The ripple effects grew beyond Seattle. Dad's #BreakTheBias campaign hit 1 million shares, prompting news outlets like CNN to cover our story. I watched a segment at school, my face on the screen, and felt exposed but empowered. Classmates who'd once teased me now asked to join my platform, and our debate team started a fairness forum, inviting bank reps to discuss reforms. Ms. Harper, my coach, became a key ally, her fiery speeches about equity inspiring me to speak at the community forum she'd mentioned. Standing at a podium in a rec center 3 miles from home, I faced 200 people, teens, parents, activists. My knees shook, but I thought of Karen's sneer, of Jamal's pain, and found my voice. "I was arrested for being me," I said, my words echoing, "but I'm not just a victim, I'm a creator, and I'm fighting back with art." The crowd cheered and I felt a rush of purpose. A local artist, Mr. Nguyen, approached me after offering to mentor me on mural design. "Your platform's a game changer," he said, handing me his card. His support made me dream bigger, maybe a citywide mural project, turning Seattle's walls into canvases for justice. But not everyone cheered. Some online comments called me a spoiled rich kid, exaggerating my story, claiming Karen was just doing her job. Others sent hate, their words sharp as knives, targeting my race, my age, my dad's wealth. I read one late at night, my tablet glowing, "You don't belong in banking, kid." It stung, echoing Karen's voice, and I wondered if I was strong enough for this fight. Dad found me crying, his face softening. "Amara, hate wants to silence you, but your art speaks louder." He showed me a post from a teen in Oakland who'd used my platform to design a no-bias logo, now on her school's walls. "This is why we keep going," he said. I nodded, wiping my tears, and sketched a new design, a heart cracked but glowing, captioned "Healed Through Truth." It got 5,000 likes, drowning out the hate, and I realized my platform wasn't just mine, it was ours, a shield for kids like me. The reforms at Wells Fargo grew too. By month's end, 10,000 employees had completed bias training, and the hotline logged 500 calls, each a story of pain or hope. Lena, the youth advocate, texted me updates. A 15-year-old in Tacoma opened her first account, no questions asked, but I knew change wasn't complete. Karen was gone, but the system that bred her lingered, subtle and stubborn. At school, I overheard a teacher dismiss our forum as overblown, and I felt a chill. Was this fight too big? Then Ms. Carter, My mentor sent me a VR clip of a teen practicing against a biased teller, her voice steady. "You made this possible," she wrote. I smiled, my resolve hardening. My platform, my voice, my art, they were weapons, and I was learning to wield them. But as I prepared for a national conference in Washington, D.C., 2,800 miles away, a new fear crept in. Could one girl, one movement, truly break the bias, or would the world push back harder? I stood backstage at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C., my palms sweaty, my heart hammering like it might burst through my Garfield high hoodie. At 14, I, Amara Thompson, was about to address 5,000 people, activists, educators, teens at a national conference on financial equity. My voice carrying the weight of a movement that began with a bank manager's racism. Months ago, Karen Daniels had called me a thief for being black, trying to deposit $1,000 at Wells Fargo in Seattle, 2,800 miles away. Her prejudice landed me in handcuffs, but my dad, Dr. Marcus Reed, turned that pain into power, exposing a bias and sparking #BreakTheBias, a campaign that reshaped banking and inspired my anti-racism art platform, Art of Justice. Now, as I peeked at the crowd, their faces a mosaic of hope and expectation, I felt both exhilarated and terrified. Could I, a kid who'd once trembled under Karen's sneer, lead this charge? My platform had 100,000 users, my designs had gone viral, but the world was watching, and hate still lurked, ready to strike. As I stepped toward the microphone, I clutched a sketch I'd drawn, a black girl soaring above a cracked earth, captioned "Rise Unbroken," and knew this moment wasn't just mine. It was for every voice silenced, every dream dismissed, and I was ready to make it raw. The journey to this stage had been a whirlwind, reshaping me from a shy designer into a voice for change. After Karen's firing, I'd poured my hurt into Art of Justice, letting teens upload anti-racism art that spoke truths adults often ignored. The platform's growth, 10,000 users in a month. Then 100,000 stunned me, each design a story of defiance. A boy from Detroit shared a digital collage of broken chains, his caption reading, "Freedom starts with us." A girl from Dallas posted a watercolor of clasped hands, her note about bank discrimination echoing my own pain. These weren't just images. They were weapons, cutting through prejudice with every share. I'd worked late nights, my tablet glowing, adding features like a forum where users swapped stories of bias. One post, from a 16-year-old in Oakland, hit me hard. They wouldn't let me open an account because I looked suspicious. "Your platform gave me courage, Amara." Reading that, I cried, not from sadness but from a fierce pride. Karen had tried to break me, but she'd unwittingly built a community, and I was its spark. Dad's role in this transformation was my anchor. He'd always been my hero, but now I saw the strategist behind the CEO, orchestrating change with precision. At our Seattle home, 5 miles from the bank that started it all, he'd shown me data. Wells Fargo's reforms had trained 20,000 employees in bias awareness, and their youth advocates had helped 3,000 teens open accounts without hassle. But he wanted more. "Amara, we need to think bigger," he said one evening, his laptop open to a proposal for a national initiative. He'd expanded the Reed Foundation's Future Fair program, adding an AI tool to our VR mentorship platform. The AI, which I helped tweak, analyzed banking interactions for bias, flagging phrases like suspicious activity when tied to race. We tested it at a community center in Tacoma, 30 miles away, where 100 teens used VR to practice confronting biased tellers, their confidence soaring. One girl, Mia, hugged me after, her eyes bright. "I'm not scared of banks anymore," she said. Her words fueled me, but they also pressed a weight on my shoulders. Every step forward reminded me of the system Karen had thrived in, its roots still tangled in places we hadn't reached. That system's shadow loomed in the backlash we faced. Online, #BreakTheBias had 2 million shares, but not all were kind. Trolls called me a race-baiting brat, accusing me of exaggerating Karen's actions to play the victim. One message, sent to my platform's inbox, chilled me. "You'll never change anything, kid. Stay in your place." I stared at it, my tablet trembling in my hands, Karen's voice echoing in those words. Dad found me, his face hardening as he read the screen. "They're scared, Amara," he said, his voice steady. "Your platform threatens their world." He showed me a counterpoint, a viral post from a Chicago activist featuring my Rise Unbroken sketch with 50,000 likes. "This is your power," he said. I nodded, sketching a new design, a shield of woven colors, captioned "Unite Against Hate," and posted it, watching it spread. But the hate lingered, teaching me a hard truth. Change wasn't just about winning, it was about enduring. At school, my transformation took root in ways I hadn't expected. My debate team, led by Ms. Harper, turned our Fairness Forum into a monthly event, drawing 300 students to discuss equity. I spoke at one, my voice steadier now, sharing how Karen's bias wasn't hers alone. "It's in the systems we trust," I said, my words met with nods and snaps. A classmate, Ethan, who'd once mocked my platform, approached me after, his face sheepish. "I didn't get it before," he said. "But my cousin got denied a loan for no reason. I'm joining Art of Justice." His words, small but sincere, showed me change wasn't just national, it was personal, rippling through peers I'd known since 6th grade. Miss Harper, too, became more than a coach. She mentored me on public speaking, her feedback sharp but kind. "You're not just telling your story," she said, "you're rewriting the narrative." Her belief in me pushed me to refine my platform, adding an AI chatbot that suggested anti-racism resources based on user posts. When it launched, 5,000 users tried it in a day, their feedback flooding my inbox with hope. The conference in DC was the culmination of these efforts, a chance to amplify our work on a national stage. Dad had been invited to keynote, but he insisted I speak, too. "This is your movement, Amara," he said on the flight, 2,800 miles from Seattle. I'd prepared for weeks, sketching my speech on my tablet, but nerves hit hard as I waited backstage. The crowd's energy was electric, their signs reading "Break the Bias" and "Art of Justice." I thought of Karen, now a retail clerk, her name a warning in banking circles, but also of the systems that had empowered her. Could my platform, my voice, truly shift that? As my name was called, I stepped forward, the spotlight blinding, my sketch clutched like a talisman. "I'm Amara Thompson," I began, my voice trembling but growing stronger. "At 14, I was arrested for being black, for daring to dream, but I'm not here to stay broken, I'm here to build." The crowd roared, and I felt a surge of courage, my words flowing like a river. I told my story, not just the handcuffs, but the aftermath, the platform, the mentorship, the millions who joined #BreakTheBias. I shared Mia's triumph, Ethan's change of heart, the AI that caught bias before it struck. "Racism isn't one person," I said, "it's a system, but we can redesign it through art, through action, through us." I held up my sketch, "Rise Unbroken," projected on a screen 20 feet wide, and the crowd stood, their applause shaking the room. Tears stung my eyes, not from fear, but from the realization that I wasn't alone. A girl in the front row, holding a sign with my design, mouthed, "Thank you." Backstage, Dad hugged me, his pride palpable. "You did it, Amara," he whispered, but I knew it wasn't done. The conference announced a national rollout of Future Fair, training 50,000 bank employees and mentoring 10,000 teens, with Art of Justice as its creative hub. My platform's AI now flagged biased policies, tested at 100 banks, catching 200 violations in a month. Yet, as we flew home, I felt a new weight. The conference had been a peak, but the fight was far from over. News broke of a bank in Memphis, repeating Karen's tactics, and my inbox filled with stories of kids still facing bias. I sketched a new design, a bridge of hands, captioned "Build Together," but doubt crept in. Could I keep leading, keep enduring the hate, the scrutiny? Dad sensed my quiet, his hand on mine. "Amara, you've built a foundation," he said. "Now we strengthen it, together." I nodded, my resolve hardening. Karen's prejudice had started this, but my art, my voice, would finish it. As Seattle's lights appeared below, I knew the hardest battles lay ahead, and I was ready to fight them, one design at a time. I stood on a vibrant stage in Seattle's Westlake Park, 3 miles from the Wells Fargo where my dreams had once been crushed, my voice steady but my heart racing like a wildfire. At 15, I, Amara Thompson, had transformed from a girl scarred by a bank manager's racism into an activist whose anti-racism art platform, Art of Justice, now connected 500,000 users worldwide. A year ago, Karen Daniels had labeled me a thief for being black, her accusation over my $1,000 deposit leading 2 handcuffs and humiliation. My dad, Dr. Marcus Reed, turned that pain into power. His #BreakTheBias campaign exposing Karen's prejudice and sparking reforms across Wells Fargo. Now, as I faced a crowd of 10,000 families, teens, activists, their signs waving, held up my tablet, displaying a new sketch, a globe cradled by diverse hands, captioned "Unity and Truth." Their cheers shook the air, but my mind churned with a question. Could I, a kid from Seattle, carry this movement forward against a world still steeped in bias? As I spoke, I didn't know this moment would etch a legacy, one that would outlast Karen's hate and challenge every heart to rise. But it would also test the strength of everything I'd built. The year since my speech in Washington, D.C., that reshaped me like a canvas painted with bold, unyielding strokes. Art of Justice had exploded, teens from Miami to Mumbai uploading designs that turned their pain into defiance. A 16-year-old from Houston shared a digital portrait of a girl breaking free from chains, her caption, "We are not invisible," echoing my own heart. Each post was a thread in a tapestry of resistance, weaving us together across borders. I'd spent sleepless nights in our Madison Park home, 5 miles from downtown, refining the platform, adding a feature that let users create virtual galleries for anti-racism art shows. One gallery, curated by a teen in Chicago, drew 20,000 views, her story of bank discrimination hitting me like a mirror of my own. Your platform gave me a voice, she wrote. I read her message, my eyes stinging, and saw Karen sneering. My mind, not just her, but the system that had emboldened her. Wells Fargo's reforms had trained 30,000 employees and mentored 5,000 teens. But news of a bank in Denver rejecting a Latino teen's deposit reminded me the fight was far from won. I sketched a new design, a bridge of faces, captioned "Cross the Divide," and posted it, my fingers trembling with purpose. Dad's vision fueled this fire. At our kitchen table, his laptop open to spreadsheets, he shared stories of his own battles, racism in Alabama boardrooms, where his brilliance was dismissed as luck. His Reed Foundation had scaled Future Fair, our mentorship program, to 20,000 teens. Its VR simulations now paired with an AI I'd helped code. The AI scanned bank interactions, flagging biased phrases like unusual activity when tied to race, catching 700 violations across 250 banks. We'd launched a pilot in Bellevue, 7 miles from home, where 200 teens practiced confronting bias in VR, their laughter filling the room. A girl named Layla, shy but fierce, told me, "I opened my account today because of you." Her smile was a victory, but Dad's words lingered. Amara, prejudice hides in cracks we can't always see. He was right. A bank chain in Atlanta was pushing back, filing a lawsuit 900 miles away to block our AI, claiming it overreached. The news hit like a gut punch, Karen's legacy whispering through their resistance. A reminder that systems protect their own. That resistance wasn't just legal, it was personal. Online, #BreakTheBias hit 6 million shares, but trolls swarmed, calling me a troublemaker or worse, their words sharp as knives. "Go back to school, kid," one read, echoing Karen's disdain. At Garfield High, a counselor, Ms. Reynolds, questioned our Fairness Forum's tone, suggesting we focus on unity, not race. Her words stung, like a softer version of Karen's venom, and I clenched my fists, remembering the handcuffs. Karen herself was a shadow now, scraping by in a $10 an hour retail job, her name a warning in banking circles, yet her mindset lived on, subtle but stubborn. My allies, though, shone brighter. Ms. Harper, my debate coach, expanded our forum to 2,000 students across Seattle, her passion for equity, a beacon. Sophia, my classmate, now ran our school's Art of Justice chapter, her design to tree of diverse roots gaining 10,000 likes. "You showed me I can fight back," she told me, her voice fierce. Their support pushed me to launch a global art initiative, partnering with the UN in New York City, 2,400 miles away, to connect 2,000 teens in 30 countries. I moderated a virtual summit, my tablet linking to kids in Lagos and Seoul. Their art dove over broken walls. A quilt of faces projected on a 40-foot screen. The Westlake Park rally was our crescendo. Marking the anniversary of my arrest, I'd invited Layla from Bellevue and a Kenyan teen, Naya, whose mural of balanced scales had gone viral. As I spoke, I wove their stories with mine. "Karen thought she could erase me," I said, my voice echoing across the park. "But we're building a world where no one's erased." I unveiled a new AI feature for Art of Justice, a global bias alert system, notifying users of discriminatory bank practices in real time, already flagging 1,500 issues in 400 institutions. The crowd roared, but a text from Dad flashed, "Lawsuit hearing tomorrow. Stay strong." The Atlanta bank's legal fight, now in a Seattle court 10 miles away, loomed large, threatening our progress. I glanced at Nia, her eyes bright with hope, and felt a surge of defiance. We'd painted 100 murals worldwide, Seattle's in Pioneer Square 1 mile from Wells Fargo showing a phoenix rising, captioned "Reborn in Truth." It had 200,000 shares, a symbol of our fight. But a new report chilled me. A bank in St. Louis had humiliated a black teen, echoing my story. The crowd's energy held me up, but doubt lingered. Could we outlast this? As the rally ended, I stepped offstage, Layla and Nia beside me, their hugs grounding me. A boy, maybe 9, ran up waving a sketch of my phoenix. "I drew this because of you," he said, his grin wide. I signed it, my throat tight, and saw Dad in the crowd, his nod a silent vow. Later at home, I sat on my bed, my tablet open, reflecting on this journey. Karen's hate had cracked my world, teaching me that racism isn't just one person, it's a system, woven into policies and silences. I'd learned to wield my art as a weapon, to turn pain into purpose, but also that change demands endurance. Every design, every mural, every teen's voice had built a movement, but the fight was relentless. I thought of Dad's stories, of Layla's courage, of the troll's hate, and realized the truest lesson. Justice isn't one alone, it's collective, built on voices that refuse to break. As I sketched a final design, a circle of hands, captioned, "Hold the line," I knew this was my life's work, but the cost was steep and the path uncertain. I looked out my window, Seattle's lights twinkling, and asked myself, and you, reading this, what it means to fight. If you were in a similar situation, with elements like racial profiling, implicit bias, class, and appearance judgment, how would you approach it to achieve the best possible outcome? Would you speak, design, organize, or endure? I've learned that every choice counts, every voice builds the bridge. My phoenix soared, but the fire still burned, and I needed to know, would you rise with me?